Good morning, Oklahoma City. We are glad to be here this morning. This is Pastor Greenwood. I know that you always expect to hear Dr. Peoples start us off, but he's running a little late this morning, but we're going to carry on. Again, good morning, Oklahoma City. We're glad to be here with you this morning. We have with us the distinguished guest, Mr. Willard Linzy, State Representative for District 99, and we're going to be hearing from Mr. Linzy here in a few minutes. If you would, let me offer a word of prayer as we get started this morning. Father God, we come this morning, Lord, giving you thanks for all that you've done for us. We appreciate you giving us another opportunity. Lord, we ask now that you would bless this program and bless all the hearers. These prayers we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Dr. Peoples is in the house. How you doing, Pastor Peoples?
Doing great. How about you? How's my friend over here?
How are you, Doctor?
He's ready to go, Pastor.
He's ready to go. Turn him loose, let him go.
Yeah, he's ready to go. Mr. Linzy, you are running for House State Representative, House District 99.
Well, yes.
And you've been here with us before.
2 times before.
And we want to say welcome and talk to us. Tell us about why are you here today? What is it you want to talk to us about?
Well, I'm continuing with the same path that we are. I think that it's, again, we have an election, runoffs coming up on the 26th of August. Time's getting real short. We're inside of 90 days of the November 4th election, of which, of course, I'll be on the ballot on November 4th. Hopefully we can get a message to the voters sufficiently enough that we reach at least 51% of the voters that says that I think Willard Linzy can give us an opportunity to go in the right direction, or at least have a conversation that we previously haven't been able to have before. And so that's kind of why I'm here again. Dr. People asked me if I could come by today, and we were talking on last night, and I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So I came today to plead for help, and because I think the message is very important that we get it out concerning my candidacy as well as those others that are running and coming before the people.
Okay. Well, again, we're glad to have you here with us this morning. Brother Linzy, you don't mind me calling you brother, do you?
I do not. I'm your brother.
You are my brother. Brother Linzy, talk to us a little bit. I know that you're running as a Republican, and
yes, I am.
We have 2 parties, Democrat and the Republican Party. Would you tell us why? What makes your position in this race? What makes you different than all the other folks that's running for this House seat? What is it that makes you different than the other folks? What do you think that makes you different here?
Well, I don't think that my party is what makes me different. I'm an African American. I was an African American long before I ever was registered as a Republican. I was born on 2nd Street. I was raised on 2nd Street, went to Inman Page Elementary School, Moon Junior High, and on to Southeast High School. That doesn't make me different. Most African Americans in my age category that was born in the 1950s, we were still slightly under the segregation. This is before the conversion after 1968. So what makes me different is, I think, the fact that I am a Republican in a time that our state is under Republican rule, both in the House, the Senate, the governor, lieutenant governor, and all statewide elected offices. I think that difference gives me an audience that's critically important for the African American community to be able to have dialogue with or have conversation with. Let's roll that down to some numbers, and I know everybody keeps saying we're not good with math. But for the first time in my lifetime, I need African American voters to be good at math. There are 71 members of the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives. That's a 101-seat body. It takes 50 votes to make something happen in our behalf. As African Americans, as a community of people, as constituents of House District 99, at any given day, there's going to still be a need for 50 votes. And, of course, your representative brings the 51st vote, and that means you get a victory. We've retrofitted the political process for the African American community by saying, well, we've always elected Democrats, and we're going to keep relying on them to try to get that message heard and to go in there and fight like the Dickens in our behalf. Politically, that strategy is simply not workable. There are 30 Democrats sitting in that caucus. Last time I did my math, 30 minus 50 leaves a minus 20. That's a real issue that we have to say, is what we're doing the right thing to do? You got Mike Shelton going back to the legislature with all success and hopes for his victory. He'll still be speaking to 30 Democrat voters. To send someone else to speak to the very same 30 people that he's speaking to does not, in my opinion, make very good sense politically. That is not the missing equation. And so I think House District 99 voters, I have to impress upon them, you have a very arduous responsibility to say, am what I'm doing with my vote this year the best thing for us on the large scale? And so House District 99 is the only seat that's open, where there is no incumbent. As you know, the incumbent has chose not to seek re-election as she's running for the state Senate to replace Connie Johnson. So that opens this seat up, and I need to have that conversation, and I'd like to lay that out there today in probably a way that may get a lot of attention negatively, but it still needs to be said. Some things today I think needs to be said, and my prayer is that as we talk along today with your listening audience, that as I say those things, you will take it from the spirit in which I intended, which is I need to know that you know that I love my people, and we need to hear some things that's never been said before.
Dr. Peoples?
Well, yes, I think that, you make a mathematical sense.
I graduated from elementary school. I did go to college. So I still remember a little bit of my math.
What is it that, I was thinking about this, that as an African American, that you could say or would say or needs to be said to the party that is in control right now? What needs to be said? What needs to be done? Why am I any different as an African American than in my neighbor who lives across from me, whose name is Sandowski?
Okay, that's not the one that had the problems in Michigan, is it? No, I'm being funny here. Okay, I know how you got to Sandowski, but there's a Sandowski that had some.
I'm using that name because that name sometimes names identify who we are. In some respects, it does.
And names can be identifying. I mean, what makes it different? I think that I don't know. I don't know that I can say that the message is any different. The message that Opio Toure, who sat in his seat before, Freddie Williams sat before him, Anastasia Pittman just recently vacated the seat. I don't know if the message is any different. And the reason I say that, Dr. People, is that we're talking about the same people. And I believe they have the very same message. I do believe African Americans want the very same things that we would say European Americans want, Irish Americans want, Asian Americans want. I don't know that we want anything any different. So you're saying, is the message any different? I don't believe it is. We want our children to get good quality education. We'd like for them to have healthy food choices. We'd like for them to have jobs. African Americans, I believe, want the very same thing everybody else wants. What I believe has been an issue is that we have not been very clear about the messenger, because we've embraced the practice and we only send Democrat legislators, and that worked real well when the Democrats were in control of the legislature. That has not worked so well. If you'll go to my website at the Facebook page of Committee-elect Willard Linzy, I put a campaign literature piece out that says, "Are you better off 8 years later?" And that a person that has a question, really I invite them to go look at that, to read that, and you'll find that your message didn't get heard. And that was never the name of the game. The name of the game was always to move the ball down the field. And we've arrived at a point where we realize we're just on the field. We're in the game to be in it, but we have no opportunity to win it. And that's simply saying that we're not having the audience or the message heard by the audience that can deliver 50 plus 1% of the vote. So I think the diversification of the Black caucus takes the message on both sides of the aisle. Same message. It just is now being heard with the 71 Republicans in their caucus, as well as it's being heard by the 30 Democrats in their caucus. Somewhere between the two lies the opportunity to arrive at 50 votes. And really would be 48. If Mike Shelton brings his vote, that brings me to 50. Willard brings his vote, that brings us to 51. So really we're now needing to reach and convince 48 people that this is something that's a right thing to do for Oklahomans, specifically those that are African American descent. So,
are the needs of African Americans any different than the European or the Irish or anyone else?
I strongly do not believe they are. I believe that we want the very same things they want. We enjoy the same liberties and desire to have the same freedoms that they have. And rightfully, I believe we're entitled to them. I mean, surely when they wrote the Bill of Rights, we weren't included in the Bill of Rights at the time from a philosophical standpoint, but we've arrived beyond that. The same things, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, there was the guarantees that came through the Bill of Rights, are the very same things African Americans want. But we're in a real precarious situation where that opportunity is not being as easily afforded to African Americans, and thus we see them in double digits on the welfare. We got them double digits in the incarcerations in the prison systems. Last hired, first fired. There are a whole lot of things that are happening that impound that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and we're not being able to get that message heard in the conservative caucuses, if we say Republican caucuses, because we haven't sent a Republican.
What can the state legislature do about the over or disproportionate population of the prison industry?
I believe there's a lot of opportunities for the legislature to look at how we incarcerate, what crimes are being used to place individuals, citizens, in prison for long periods of time. And the legislature can send guidance to the Department of Corrections regarding their sentencing grids. At the time I served at State Finance, we called it Truth in Sentencing under Governor Keating. I remember those discussions being made as they talked about the grids and where we're going to be the sentencing grids and where was going to be the range of punishments, as they called it. And I didn't have a vote, but I do recall having conversations saying that some of these crimes probably shouldn't be put in some of these categories. And so when you say that you have an opportunity to sit in a room and have a conversation, it's real. I remember, again, Governor Keating and I, we go back. I served in his administration for 6 years. But I remember he said, "Wait, I know no one has gone to prison for stealing bread." And we joked and we laughed in his office there, along with the Director of State Finance. And I remember in a polite way saying, "Well, sir, I do." And again, there was that brief silence. But it was important that I be in the room at the time, that he shared his thoughts to give the perspective that I know folks that did get caught shoplifting. And they were shoplifting to feed their family.
And went to prison.
And they went to prison. Yeah. But he didn't know anyone that had went to prison for stealing bread. But again, you got it from his perspective. I just don't see why we're needing to dinker with this sentencing grid. That's what he's saying. I'm saying we do. There are people that should not go to jail because they don't have jobs. And again, I know there's jobs. You can say we can get one at McDonald's. My largest employer in the House District 99 is the Medical Research Park, the hospital complex. Most of the folks that live in House District 99, short of being a janitor or secretary or something like that, they don't have the credentials to get the jobs that pays the big bucks in that complex. You take the Presbyterian Health Research Park. Those are scientists, doctors. Sorry, a lot of the constituents that I'm having to talk to and look in their faces as they look for hope, I can't send them there and refer them. So that's the gravity of. Is there a likelihood that they're going to do drugs, get caught taking a chance? I call it on the hustle. I've got your ladies walking the street in House District 99, leveraging the sanctity of their bodies. Do I understand the hustle? I do. Do I like it? No. But we can't change it overnight, but we need to begin to have a conversation. And I think that's what my candidacy offers me, is the ability to go into the room of 71 folks and say, we need to look at some different outcomes. This isn't good for these people. They are Oklahomans, too.
You know, we speak of the incarceration, and I don't have up-to-date statistics on what I want to ask you about, but I do recall over the years that I won't say most even, but I will say at least many of the prison population is minorities, mostly African American, of course Hispanic, and maybe a few Asian here or there, Indians here or there. and it's most for possession of marijuana or distribution of marijuana. And I know that there's conversation, as you speak now, of legalization of marijuana in some cities, Colorado, for instance, some states, I should even say. I've forgotten the other state right offhand. But I was talking with someone, and they I guess it was probably a judge that mentioned that you caught with 3 ounces of marijuana, you going to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, is that something that, do we need a conversation on that?
I think we do. Now, again, like I said, I was not a legislator. I was an analyst for the Department of Corrections at the time that we negotiated and came up with the truth in sentencing approach, put that in law and made it statute. Clearly, in light of where we are today with the growth of the prison population, clearly with the adverse impact on the African American communities and minorities, maybe there was some issue of design in that sentencing, truth in sentencing initiative. But I know that most of the folks sitting around that table, the district attorney's office, the public defender, they had true intentions in their heart to try to do what was right for Oklahomans. I'm not opposed to saying that maybe this is a good day to revisit that, to relook at those grids, to relook at the range of punishments and the sentencing, the offense. Again, controlling offense is what I'm looking at. So, but again, I don't know that we win by having that conversation in the Democrat caucus, because there's only 30 votes there to try to move that onto the floor. It should probably be heard in the Democrat caucus. But I believe it needs to be heard in the Republican caucus, and for us as a people who are mostly impacted by it. And again, we are 40% of the prison population. I think somewhere your brothers, your cousins, your uncles are impacted by incarceration, by offenses that perhaps in another situation they would not have found themselves in prison. We incarcerate the largest number of women, and a large number of them predominantly are African American too. And these are your check writers, your bogus check writers. And again, I'm looking at what they wrote the bogus check for, but a lot of them wrote hot checks to get food, to try to feed their families. Shoplifting. And again, I'm not going to rule out the fact there's some people, there is organized crime efforts going on in our community, but I still call that part of the hustle. Is if we're looking at what is available to me to try to make it, sometimes a crime becomes an attractive alternative to the fact that I've been looking for a job 6 years or 3 months or 2 years and haven't gotten hired. I do what I can to make it work for me, and that's generally it's a crime. Again, prostitution is a crime, even though it's a personal issue against your own body. It's a crime on the statutes, and you can be arrested and sent, and folks take chances.
Mr. Linzy, I know Reverend Greenwood wants to get in here too, but let me just throw this out. I hear what you're saying. As African Americans, probably not only in Oklahoma, but we're talking about Oklahoma right now. When an individual feels that they don't have a chance, because of the way the system historically has addressed them and treated them.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
They lose hope. And, I've been wondering for years and years and years, what is it that's in an individual because I could easily have lost hope
mm-hmm.
when I was 17, because I had prepared myself adequately and properly and efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And I took all of my credentials. I wanted to be a mechanic is what I wanted to be.
Okay.
I went to vocational school at Douglas for 4 years in auto mechanics. I won first place at Langston University 2 years in a row in a state contest. I graduated from high school with my diploma, with my vocational certification. I had worked for a very reputable auto shop, so I had a letter of reference and recommendation. and had a letter of reference and recommendation from my teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Took them to get a job as a mechanic's helper, and they said, we don't hire colored boys. Okay. And my dream was crushed. And I made up in my mind then that, I'm not going to let this stop me. But now a lot of people would have and did have. And so I'm talking about back in the 50s. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing is still going on.
Yes, it is. I believe it is.
And so what happens is then that people lose hope and say, well, there's no need of me even trying. How do we change that from a governmental perspective?
I think government has a duty to provide somewhat of an even playing field, Dr. People. Policies that are put in place are typically executed by the executive branch of government. I'm running for a legislative office that's considered the legislative branch. We set parameters. That's what statutes define as parameters. Here's your upper limits, here's your lower limits. And in most cases, laws only set the floor. You can't do this, you can't do that, but you can always do more. You talk about affirmative action. I mean, I've talked about affirmative action in previous broadcasts and interviews. You speak and you give a perfect example of why I don't believe education is the panacea. I do not believe there is a silver bullet, and I don't think education is the silver bullet. It is part of the solution, but I know folks that in the same scenario you gave that had education. They had the certificates, they had the certification, they had letters of recommendation, but there were no opportunities with which, so they ended up still unemployed, even with certifications, degrees, and letters of recommendation. That's still happening today. I know folks with degrees that are sweeping floors and sitting underneath the bridges or in rescue shelters. It's real. I've said before, when you look at the demographics of House District 99, 80% of the residents in that district live at or below poverty. That's the federal poverty levels. It's unconscionable that in the inner city, the capital city of the state, a district that's in the heart of the city, that we have that much poverty in one House district. Doesn't exist in any other House district in the entire state. Someone's accumulated or aggregated that many poor people in one district. So they called OPO the poor person's representative, and there was a reason for that. I found it out after I looked at the census data. He was the poor people's representative. But somebody did that by design. So if I take away hope, I believe behavior is predictable. It depends on how long you're going to sit in the mud before you do something about it. If it's to take a chance and break a law to try to get up out of it, it happens. Behavior is predictable. I've watched cops sit on street corners, and I'm an ex-police officer myself, and if they're bad intentioned, it's all a matter of odds. Somebody's going to come by and float that stop sign. I ought to go just sit there and wait. But I'm fishing. I know that you're going to stay poor so long, and then you're going to try to do something. You're going to take a chance. You're going to steal, rob, sell your body, do drugs. It's how long. What we don't know is how long you will endure those adverse conditions before you do something illegal. My issue is I want to talk about policies where we lessen the likelihood of that need. There aren't enough jobs in here. The scenario you gave me said that your community didn't have the ability to employ you, even though you had degrees and certificates, so you had to go to someone else, and they said, we don't hire colored people. That's an external application, and I think that even though we are matriculating our children through these schools and out of these universities, without the ability of us as a community of folks to create jobs, to create enterprises where they can be employed gainfully, they're back to the affirmative action piece. When they hit we're 7.6% of the population in the state of Oklahoma. When European managed and owned companies hit their 7.6%, you're kind of at their mercy. Either they pick up another African American that really has sharp skills, or they tell you, like to say, well, we don't have any more openings. Where do you go?
Mr. Linzy, I know that our time is running away. And I don't know whether you ought to be a politician or a preacher.
Well, politicians have messages too.
They do. So. But now, how can people contact you?
I invite you to go to the Facebook site, Community-elect Willard Linzy on Facebook. Clearly, you can call me at my phone number, area code 405. My number is 512-3754.
You might want to give that again because somebody may want to call you even today.
Well, that number is 512-3754. I ain't scared and I ain't running, so I'm not in hiding. I'm actually needing to go before the people. My closing thought that I want to challenge is that there's a real concern for me that we that we watch the right hand when the left hand is really the hand that's in play. I do not believe that August 26th is the election that House District 99 voters should be focused on. And clearly it's an important election. It is the runoff. Where we position ourselves on November 4th will determine whether it's an African American in the Republican caucus or whether there's not. There are those that are gatekeepers, and don't mean to be offensive, but that rely on a strategy in politics that either we play the idiot vote, the insane vote, against the informed vote. That's real. It's a political strategy. And so the things we've talked about.
You can finish your thought. Go ahead.
Come on.
That's short me and Dr. Greenwood had looked at. And when I come back, I'd like to talk about that. That was probably a good place to stop.
Well, thank you for joining us again, Reverend Greenwood. I know you didn't get that last question in, but we'll get it another time.
Okay. All right.
You may reach us at 249-2352